그래, 나 아주 가서 나는 저기 디기투야 다 동아세게 탑람다 다 초도 교바디.
Good morning. So yesterday, when we're looking at the 7th and 8th verses, we looked further into the method by which to transform one's mind so as to eradicate all problems, suffering, and difficulties that we experience and attain a state of lasting happiness. So what we looked at is that one needs to meditate deeply on the sufferings of samsara, the sufferings that beings in the lower realms are experiencing right now, and that, as we have not gained freedom from cyclic existence, potentially await us. We also, though, need to look at the sufferings in the higher realms to recognize there is no rebirth or state within even the higher realms that equates to lasting happiness. In this way, give rise to a disenchantment towards cyclic existence and a determination to gain freedom from suffering. And then lift our gaze from our own situation and recognize all other sentient beings are in the same predicament as ourselves, not wanting to fall to the lower realms, but not experiencing lasting happiness in the higher realms either. And they all, just like me, want to abide in lasting happiness and never have to experience problems again. We are all at a fundamental level the same. Then one develops this mind further. May all beings be happy. So all beings, ourselves and all others, may all beings abide in a state of lasting happiness. May all beings accumulate the causes that will lead to this. So this is a cultivation of the mind of love. And this is followed with a mind of compassion. May all beings gain their freedom from suffering so they never have to suffer in any way again. Developing love and compassion ever further to the point where this aspiration becomes deep and strong within, and further still to the point where merely having this aspiration feels insufficient. And one makes the determination, I will fulfill this aspiration. I take it as my responsibility to ensure that beings attain a state of lasting happiness and gain their freedom from suffering. And as I have this precious human rebirth, this life with such potential, I will make the very most of this rebirth. And this then is the wholehearted resolve where one takes responsibility for the welfare of others. And then this is immediately followed by the recognition, but whilst I have this determination and I'm going to strive and do my best right now is not enough. I am still quite limited. I have not gained my own freedom, so I cannot guide others yet on a basis of experience. I have to become a Buddha, the most skilled of guides. And I have to become a Buddha so that I can lead others to attain their own enlightenment. In this way, one generates bodhicitta. When we came to the 8th verse, we looked at that even if one develops such a resolve, develops this mind of enlightenment, even though one now is a new bodhisattva, that having that mind alone is insufficient for one to become a Buddha. One has to accumulate the causes, and the causes are accumulated through engaging in the practices of a bodhisattva, or training one's mind in the practices of a bodhisattva. And these are presented as the 6 perfections. So these are the trainings we've heard about before, but being conjoined now with bodhicitta, they are called perfections. Namely those of generosity, ethics, patience, joyous perseverance, concentration, and wisdom. And with this powerful mind of bodhicitta, this determined attitude to become a Buddha for the sake of others, not wanting to waste even a moment or to delay one's spiritual development by even a moment, one has a powerful impetus to strive in cultivating this very way of thinking, developing these 6 trainings within one's mind. And one requests one's teacher and the Buddhas and one's yidam for blessings or for inspiration in one's endeavors. So we have spoken over the course of the week, briefly over our time together, briefly over some of these practices. So to recap some of them, the mind of generosity is an attitude of wanting to give of oneself. And this can be most clearly expressed through giving material assistance to help ease the suffering of others, or to bring benefit into their lives, or to help others in a time of crisis when their life is in danger, or to help them through the guidance, the teachings of the Dharma. So in other words, the mind of generosity is this wish to give of oneself. This needs to be conjoined with that of ethical restraint, because generosity is the wish to benefit. Ethical restraint is the determination, I will not harm. These two need to work together. So ethical restraint is that I'm determined to ensure that my mind is restrained within the confines of what is ethical. In other words, not influenced by the afflictions. And therefore, both my speech and my physical behavior will be ethical too. And then coming together with these trainings of generosity and ethics, the determination to benefit and the determination not to harm, one also has the attitude of patience, which is, I want to lead all beings to enlightenment. Therefore, any response to their provocation, their unskillful behavior, their harm that they inflict upon me, any response that is contrary to my determined attitude to lead them to enlightenment, this is completely inappropriate. This helps then the training of patience, a mind that stays undisturbed in the face of adversity. And fourthly, enthusiastic perseverance, where one intentionally takes delight in these virtuous endeavors, seeing one's spiritual development, recognizing the great importance of this, develops enthusiasm about one's training, and thereby commits to persevering, in other words, training in one's mind in an ongoing manner. So these are the first four of the six perfections. A key point to really take to heart is that our virtuous activities, whilst they lead to the accumulation of merit, how much merit is accumulated depends entirely on depends largely on the motivation. This is important to really take to heart, so that one develops the habituation to be mindful that before engaging in any virtuous activity, that one does so under a powerful virtuous motivation, so that that same activity can lead to a far greater meritorious example. So I'll give a simple illustration, and that is, you take your leftovers and you give it to insects. So in these various permutations of this act, what doesn't change is what you're giving. It's just your leftover meal. And what also does not change is to whom you're giving it to, perhaps to the ants or other insects. So there's no difference in terms of what is being offered or to whom it is being offered. What will differ is the motivation. And because of the growing strength of the various motivations, the amount of merit, that same act, which takes the same amount of time and effort, the amount of merit that is accumulated is vastly different. So if, for example, you eat your meal, got some leftovers, and you just put them in the garbage, then maybe you have some insects there, or later at the dump, and they will eat your leftovers. There's no merit accumulated. There was no act of generosity there at all. One just disposed of one's leftovers, and it just so happened that some beings were able to take sustenance from that. But then, if one had the actual intention, let me throw these leftovers outside so that insects can enjoy and take sustenance, there you have to gain some merit. But that merit is very little, because the only motivation you had was to help these beings sustain their life. Nothing wrong with that. It's a good act to do, and one should be encouraged to do so. But if one has a slightly stronger motivation, through this merit of helping these insects sustain their life, through this merit, may I attain an excellent rebirth. May I not fall into the lower realms like them. May I continue to have precious human rebirth after precious human rebirth. Same act, same beings being benefited, but a far more powerful motivation, therefore more merit. Likewise, making the same act, but through this merit, may may these be the part of the causes required, so I can come to recognize the sufferings of samsara in its entirety, give rise to a determination to gain liberation from cyclic existence, and attain my liberation, gain freedom from samsara. So now, same act, far more powerful motivation. Again, offering leftovers to insects outside your home, and do so though with the motivation of bodhicitta. These beings have been my kind mothers. By offering to them, may I ease their suffering right now, and through this connection that I create with these beings, may I help them in every subsequent life. And through this merit, may I gain Buddhahood so that I can teach these beings the Dharma. And I, in fact, dedicate this merit I'm accumulating so that these beings who partake of my offering, that they can become humans in their future lives, and that I can lead them to attain their own enlightenment. So here, you're seeing various motivations. The first, you're just making a disposal. Really, no merit was gained there. But the others, merit was gained. And the vast, and as one's motivation progressed, far more merit was accumulated. So again, take this to heart and keep it in mind at all times. Be mindful of this, because this is the case not just with generosity, but it's the case with all endeavors. If one's motivation for ethics, one's motivation for patience, one's motivation when one does any meditation or does circumambulation or prostrations or recite mantra, the strength of the motivation determines how meritorious that same act is. From the illustration just given of offering leftover food, it should be clear that one does not need to be wealthy to practice generosity. And if one never has leftovers, it doesn't mean that one can't practice generosity either. Because prior to eating and drinking, then take a moment. Offer the food you're about to enjoy, the tea that you're about to drink. Offer this to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Take just a couple of moments and quietly to yourself, you offer to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And you do so with one of the motivations mentioned before, ideally with the motivation of bodhicitta. I offer this to all the great practitioners, the Bodhisattvas, as well as to all the perfected beings, the Buddhas. Through the merit of offering to them and this expression of my appreciation for the benefit they bring to me and so many others, through this merit I thereby accumulate. May my spiritual ambitions, my attainment of the minds of bodhicitta and so forth, my attainment of enlightenment, come about quickly. Moreover, through this merit, may all beings come to have easy access to clean water like I have, and to nutritious food like I have. May all beings come to abide in happiness. Moreover, through this merit, may I quickly develop spiritually and be able to teach beings the Dharma and guide them to attain their enlightenment. So one just recites something like this, but with meaning from one's heart. In this way, one accumulates excellent merit. And one can also be aware that living in our body are innumerable bacteria. And we know that by consuming this meal, they have a feast inside. So one can also dedicate that through the connection I am making with these beings abiding in my body. Through this connection, I dedicate this merit I'm creating to these beings in my body so they may gain human rebirths in their lives to come. And through this dedication of merit, may I teach them a Dharma, guide them to attain their own liberation. So in this way, because we drink throughout the day and we eat several times, by taking a moment like this and offering with sincerity, one quickly accumulates merit. And not only that, one develops a habituation, or rather one strengthens one's awareness that the very purpose of this life is to use what remains of this life skillfully to develop spiritually and to be of ever more benefit to others. And then finally, one can also rejoice in the merit accumulated. Because when one makes offerings such as I've described, your mind is already in a joyous state. It's wonderful to make such offerings, to develop a genuine wish May all beings attain happiness. Then rejoice in what you are doing, how you are living your life. So here, you're rejoicing in the merit that you accumulated. Also be aware, others are accumulating merit. So those that you know from our time here together, as well as so many other beings in the world, are doing things to help others. This is something that many beings do naturally. Rejoice in the merit that others are accumulating, whether it's vast or whether it's minor. Rejoice in the good that beings are doing for each other. That then concludes a review of what we looked at yesterday. Now to come to today's teaching, where we're going to look at calm abiding or single points of concentration and its further development into meditative insight or special insight. So we'll look at that today. The 9th verse. By quieting distraction to wrong objects and correctly analyzing the meaning of reality, please inspire me so that the path of the union of calm abiding and meditative insight arises quickly within my mind stream. So whilst I've explained to you how through developing a motivation, the same virtuous act can lead to far more powerful results, and therefore please do take this advice to heart. Further point to make is that without the mind we have at the moment, which is so distracted, I mean, I don't need to tell you this, you know when you meditate, your mind is all over the show. The result of this distracted mind is that the merit we acquire, that we accumulate, is weak. If we are able to develop the powerful mind of single point of concentration or calm abiding, then with this powerful concentrated mind, that same activity leads to an incredible amount of merit because the mind is so focused. It is not distracted. And this is the case with all the virtuous minds we've discussed thus far. Generosity, ethical restraint, patience, and enthusiastic perseverance. Here the analogy that's used is if one pictures a wide meandering river. That large bulk of water, whilst moving, is moving without much strength. Whereas later, when that river gets channeled, perhaps in a narrow ravine, that same quantity of water now travels with tremendous strength and force. That's what one does when one develops single-pointed concentration. This distracted mind now comes together and is focused and remains focused. Therefore, one's meritorious activities have so much strength because of the power of the focused, concentrated mind behind it. Therefore, the result of the same meditation, for example, is so much more powerful than otherwise. The first line, by quieting distraction to wrong objects. So every mind has an object. So what an object means is just what your mind is thinking about, what your mind is engaged with. And wrong, in this context, means it's afflicted. So usually, when you sit and meditate, your mind is quickly drawn away from the virtuous object, virtuous mind you're trying to cultivate, and drawn to either an object of attachment, so you're drawn towards something that you like, or you think about something that you deeply dislike, an object of anger. So these are the most common distractions. Wrong objects refers to where the afflictions pull one away from the virtuous object one is trying to cultivate. So for example, when you're trying to sit and meditate, very quickly your mind is drawn to pleasurable things. Maybe thinking about your friends, maybe thinking about later having a good time with them, or maybe thinking about a lovely meal. Or if one is drawn towards something hurtful that someone has said to you, or something that someone has done to you, or what is being done in the world. And then your mind is so quickly drawn away like that. So these are distraction. The mind is being distracted to wrong objects. This needs to be quietened, or the mind needs to be either made, it's the same word, quiet or peaceful. So instead of being distracted, the mind needs to be quietened down, made peaceful. The second line, and correctly analyzing the meaning of reality. So the first line is specifically about the need to quiet distraction. This references the need to develop concentration. So we've discussed of the 6 practices, concentration is the 5th, following that of enthusiastic perseverance. And one needs concentration for all the practices so that one accumulates far more merit and deepens the habituation to those practices to one's mind. But in particular, in terms of developing the wisdom realizing selflessness, one needs the powerful, concentrated mind of calm abiding. And this is then the meaning of the second line, correctly analyzing the meaning of reality, where one develops the wisdom realizing reality, realizing how the self and all phenomena actually exist. When one is engaging in meditation on any topic, one comes to the point where one gains an understanding of that topic, feeling arises in relation to that topic. Then one abides on that, rests with that realization in the meditation. But lacking calm abiding, we very quickly are distracted from that. In a few moments, it's gone. But when one develops calm abiding or single-pointed concentration, then when this understanding or this insight into the topic arises, one then can abide with that realization for as long as one wants. And this way, one deepens one's habituation to that topic. So this is the great power that comes with single-pointed concentration. However, all that single-pointed concentration or calm abiding can do is hold the object unmovingly for as long as you want, but unmovingly. As soon as one moves one's mind, tries to investigate perhaps a little deeper, one's concentration is lost. So therefore, calm abiding alone is insufficient. One needs to develop it further. So this is the third line. One needs to develop a meditative insight. So this term meditative insight, it is most commonly translated as special insight. But what it would be if one was literal is not special, but additional or extra insight or additional insight. What this means is one is doing something additional or extra to calm abiding, because it is a realization or development of the mind beyond calm abiding. One attains calm abiding, and then later, or in dependence on that, one develops meditative insight or this additional insight. So what this mind can do is that it is when one develops the union of calm abiding and meditative insight, calm abiding can continue to hold whatever it is you are meditating on undistractedly, but because now the additional extra insight has been developed, what I call meditative insight, one can analyze further. One can analyze deeper without distraction. This is the great benefit of having the union of calm abiding and meditative insight. So not only calm abiding, but where one is able to, where one develops meditative insight and then can meditate with both of these, hence the union. Without distraction, calm abiding, but being able to investigate deeper, having deeper insight, meditative insight. In this way, one can use one's wisdom or intelligence to investigate more deeply. Again, whatever the meditative topic is, in this context, we talk about investigating reality deeper, more deeply. So whatever one is meditating on, one can investigate deeply without distraction when one has the union of calm abiding and meditative insight. So to make this clear, if you think of watching a dance or watching sports, in either illustration, for the dancer or athlete to perform at the level required, they need to be well coordinated. They need to coordinate their leg movements and their arm movements. If the athlete's only using their arms or only using their legs, not going to be very effective at their sport. Or if it's a dancer only using one or the other, it's not going to be effective. So first, perhaps they train their legs, and when the legs know the movements well, then they learn the movements with the arms, and then once that's they've got that good, then they are able to bring the two together. So if we think of what one trains in first, so that would be maybe the leg movements, that then is likened to attaining calm abiding. This needs to be required first. It's indispensable that calm abiding has to be achieved first. Thereafter, one learns the second set of movements, that of the arms, and this then can be likened to meditative insight. But it's not just enough that you know the arm movements and the leg movements. You need to be able to do them together. You need that coordinated movement. And that coordinated movement is likened to the union. So the legs are likened to calm abiding, the movement of the arms to meditative insight, and them moving in a coordinated manner is likened to their union, the union of calm abiding and meditative insight. This union, this mind that is the union of calm abiding and meditative insight, whilst can and should be applied to all meditation topics. Here we see it is specifically referenced to reality. So in other words, in relation to the wisdom realizing emptiness or selflessness. And it's specifically, and again, whilst a meditator or a yogin will utilize this union of calm abiding meditative insight in every meditation, whatever the topic, it specifically references here reality, because when one is meditating on selflessness or emptiness, and one comes to realize emptiness, one can hold it with calm abiding, strengthen one's familiarity with this realization, and then meditate more deeply with this meditative insight, or the literally additional or extra insight. One can now, without any distraction, meditate deeper, deeper, deeper. And why is it then that specifically in relation to reality is the union of calm abiding meditative insight mentioned? Because it is this mind that is the actual antidote to the afflictions. It is this mind that, when developed sufficiently, leads to liberation from cyclic existence, complete freedom. So when the yogin eventually attains the union of calm abiding and meditative insight, in relation to this very subtle object of emptiness, this mind then, they need to develop its strength. And this then becomes the priority of their focus in meditation, because it is this mind that, when it's strong enough, will lead to the root cause, the ignorance, being severed by this now powerful mind of wisdom. Hence, we see, so the end of the Tibetan, for us it's in the third line, please inspire me, so that this mind arises quickly within my mind stream. Here then one, as before, is making requests to one's Lama and the Buddha and one's Yidam, seeing them as indivisible, requesting that we quickly achieve this, requesting the inspiration that we quickly develop this within our mind stream. The motivation of the yogin here is that I must become a Buddha so that I can guide all sentient beings to attain a state freed of suffering. So they have this motivation of bodhicitta. In order to become a Buddha so that I can help others, I have to realize reality. I have to realize emptiness directly, because it's only then that my mind gains freedom from cyclic existence, and I will be able to guide others in dependence on my experience. But in order to realize emptiness directly, I have to develop the union of calm abiding and meditative insight. So therefore, one turns to one's Lama and the Buddha and Yidam, requesting their inspiration. Please inspire me to do so. And the purpose of making this supplication is, the more one is inspired to do something, the more one will try. And when one is inspired by one's teacher, one is inspired to not only try ever more, but to try in accordance with his guidance. And it's these two, making the great effort and doing so in the correct and unmistaken way, that leads to rapid progress and the quick attainment of such qualities as these within one's mind stream. So this again is the purpose of requesting inspiration, or the common translation of requesting blessings, is so that to the extent that one is inspired by one's teacher, one will strive in the meditations he's guiding you in, and one will strive in the manner in which one is guided. This is how one quickly attains results. This word then that I've translated inspire, but elsewhere will be translated as a blessing. So in any text, when you come across the word blessing, what it means is the following. So it has in Tibetan two particles, jin and lop, jin gi lop. So jin, the first particle, can be translated as strength or power or capacity. And this refers to the beings to whom one is making the supplication. So the Buddhas, one's Lama, one's Yiram, that they have this perfected strength or power or capacity. So that's the first particle of the word, so it's jin, and it's in relation to those to whom one is making the supplication. They have this power or strength or capacity. Then the second particle, that of lob, so this is in relation to oneself, and it means to change. So the very meaning of Buddhist practice is changing one's mind, transforming one's mind. So this is the purpose of making the supplication, requesting blessings or requesting inspiration, so that we can, the second particle lob, change our mind, transform our mind. And how do we do so? Through the beings to whom we're making the supplication. They have these qualities of their body, speech, and mind that has the strength, power, capacity. So through their physical behavior, their speech, and the qualities of their mind, all have strength, power, or capacity. And so by us reaching out to them for inspiration, we are accumulating virtue. We are accumulating virtue because of their qualities. And in this way, this accumulation of virtue in relation to the qualities of the beings to whom we are turning for inspiration, we accumulate merit and we transform or change our mind. So this is the meaning then of blessings or inspiration. We are turning to those who inspire you for your mind to be transformed through their good qualities. In other words, through being inspired by them, we'll strive to train in the way they are guiding us. To make sure that this meaning of blessing or inspiration is clear, I can give some examples. So when one has the great fortune to receive teachings from His Holiness, especially when one is in His presence, perhaps amongst a large crowd, one feels His presence, one feels His power. So this is, in the word blessing, this is that, or inspiration, this first particle, jin. So one feels His strength, His power, His capacity. And this then leads to your heart opening and your mind giving inspiration arising within. And this inspiration is a deep determination to strive to develop the same qualities that His Holiness has through training one's mind in the way that He's teaching. So if He's teaching on love and wisdom and compassion, one's heart is touched by these teachings. One is inspired by these teachings. This then is the receiving of His blessings. And what is that actual blessing that one has received? It's merit, it's virtue, it's good karma. In that, through one's heart being opened through His power and capacity, and then from our side, wanting to train, being inspired and wanting to train in the way that one is being guided, one is accumulating merit. This is the actual blessing. Likewise, through the teachings you're receiving on this text and the meditations you are doing on this text, if one's heart is being opened by these teachings and meditation, then one is receiving the blessings of Lama Tsongkhapa, or to use the literal word, so the jin, through the power or the strength or the capacity of Lama Tsongkhapa, one's heart is being opened to the Dharma, and one is wanting to train in the way that one is being guided. One is determined that these same meditations that you are doing here as a group, when I get home, I will do them again. Here one is accumulating merit through this determination, and the strength of the blessing one receives determines the durability of this inspiration, of this determination. So in this way, one receives blessings from great masters of the past, as well as the great masters alive in our world today. And the strength of inspiration generated will vary greatly depending on the person. The more one's heart opens to the power or capacity of the being, the greater the mind will transform. This is the second particle, the lob. The greater one's mind one's heart will open, one's mind will transform. And thereby, the greater the merit is accumulated, the greater the inspiration one receives. And therefore, the longer lasting the results are. So this then is the meaning of this term inspiration or blessing. So with the completion of the 9th verse, we have now come to the completion of the first of the 2 parts of the Mahayana. The Mahayana has 2 parts, one being that of sutra and one being that of mantra. So we've now concluded looking at the Mahayana presentation, the Mahayana Sutra presentation. So to recap, the first topic, the foundation of all the good qualities we long to develop, is relying on our spiritual teacher. And this is of great importance because it is through relying on a spiritual teacher one receives both one's education, the gathering of knowledge, but not only that, one receives guidance in how to cultivate that knowledge within oneself, and one receives inspiration to do so. Inspiration to strive to cultivate that knowledge you're receiving, to integrate it within oneself. So this was the first point, relying on the spiritual teacher. And the second training is also one of great importance. This is where we come to recognize the great value of this very rare, precious human rebirth. And this is such an important meditation because when it arises, when one gains a deep understanding of this topic, one will no longer take this life for granted. One no longer will see this life as ordinary or commonplace. This is important, otherwise we waste this life. We waste this opportunity. And moreover, what will also come about when one gains understanding of this topic is one will see that the development of all these remarkable qualities of the Dharma, they are not beyond us. We have the capacity for this. We are not small and ordinary people. We have great capacity lying within. None of these powerful realizations are beyond us. All of these, by striving, we can cultivate. And the third point is that of recognizing the impermanence of this opportunity, that this life itself will end, and when it ends is completely unknown. Therefore, I have to make the most of what remains of this life. And in fact, every period within this life also ends. Each teaching session, each meditation session ends. I need to make the most of what I have while I still have it. So this way of thinking helps to counter procrastination and delay. So having recognized the great potential that comes with this rebirth and the need to engage in fulfilling its potential from right now, then the question is answered. So now how do I live a meaningful life? How do I live a life of purpose, a life that truly matters? So firstly, one looks at all the capacity that this life brings. Let me put it to good use. And I need to continue this process for lifetimes to come. So I have to ensure that in my very next rebirth, I do not fall into the lower realms. I have to create the causes for an ongoing stream of excellent rebirths. Therefore, I have to train in those 5 causes: ethical restraint, generosity, patience, enthusiastic perseverance, and prayer. These causes will ensure that, these causes well developed will ensure that good rebirths follow. So that is the trainings which are shared with or common with a practitioner of initial capacity, and that is our starting point. Then one develops one's motivation further, recognizing that actually there is no happiness to be found anywhere in cyclic existence. There's no rebirth or special thing one can buy or lifestyle one can live where one is abiding in lasting happiness. It just does not exist anywhere for any being who is still bound in samsara. And thinking deeply on this gives rise to determination to gain freedom from cyclic existence, to attain the happiness, the lasting, stable happiness of liberation. And to do so, one has to cultivate the causes. So these causes now are built on what one has been training in already. So it's the first same 4 practices of generosity, ethics, patience, and joyous perseverance. And then in addition, concentration and wisdom. Here then one commits to strive as much as one can. So that then was the trainings shared with a practitioner of intermediate capacity. Then the trainings unique to a practitioner of greatest capacity. So here then one having trained well and given rise to this determination to gain freedom from cyclic existence through recognizing the sufferings of cyclic existence, one lifts one's gaze from one's own predicament and looks at others, recognizing we are all in the same boat. None of us want to suffer. We all want to abide in lasting happiness. Whilst I can observe many superficial differences between myself and others, at a fundamental level, we are all the same. In the same way I want to abide in happiness, may others do so as well. May we all abide in happiness. In the same way as I don't want to suffer, nor do others, may we all gain our freedom from suffering. And in this way we develop love. May all beings abide in happiness. And again here, all beings, oneself and all others, may we abide in happiness. May we all gain our freedom from suffering, and thereby we develop compassion. And we develop these two to the strength where it's a strong and powerful dominant force within us, that when we move through society, we feel a sense of deep and tender connection with everyone, wanting them to be happy and gain freedom from suffering. But as we cultivate these minds ever further, this mere aspiration starts to feel insufficient. I have to do something about this. It's not enough that to merely want others to gain freedom from suffering and abide in lasting happiness. I have to guide them. I have to show them how it's possible. I'm experiencing change within me. I see how the Dharma is alive within me, how it's working. I want to guide others to attain the same state. And here one develops the wholehearted resolve. But to do so, I have to spiritually develop further. I am not yet free of suffering myself. I don't really know how to guide others because I'm still a trainee myself. I have to develop further. And also when I think of the wide variety of beings throughout the realms and their own karmic backgrounds, I don't know how to relate to others perfectly in accordance with their own unique personalities and disposition. I have to become a Buddha, the perfect guide. And here one generates bodhicitta, the determination to become a Buddha so that one can guide all beings to attain a state freed of suffering. Having generated bodhicitta, this determination to become a Buddha, then one strives in those practices that lead, which are the accumulation of the causes that will lead to the eventual attainment of Buddhahood. So these are the same 6 practices that were mentioned before, but now that one has generated bodhicitta, those practices are motivated by bodhicitta. One's generosity is motivated by bodhicitta. So therefore, one is committed to helping any and every being in any way possible. Likewise, with ethics, now motivated by bodhicitta, the determination is abundantly clear. I will not harm these beings. I have love for them. I have compassion for them. How could I possibly harm them? And likewise, one's patience is now motivated by bodhicitta. How could I possibly respond in any adverse way or even allow an affliction to arise within me, no matter how others treat me, whether it's with harm or with ingratitude or indifference? I will only hold them dear. I will never respond in any inappropriate manner. And in this way, one's patience is empowered by bodhicitta. And so too is one's enthusiastic perseverance, single-pointed concentration, and wisdom. And here then one will strive to cultivate the union of calm abiding and meditative insight, recognizing that it's only when the mind is that powerful that one's meditation on emptiness will actually be able to cut the very root of our suffering, the afflictions, and thereby we gain liberation. And thereby our mind is freed from the afflictions, and our love is far more developed, our compassion far more developed, and we can help others. So in this way, it should be clear how the trainings build one on top of the other, and thereby one trained in this specific sequence. As one's motivation is generally growing and developing, one's trainings become ever more powerful. So in this way, we see the links between the various practices. And that then shows that we've concluded looking at the trainings that are shared with the practitioner of initial capacity, of intermediate capacity, and the trainings that are unique to practitioners of greatest capacity. So then thank you. We can conclude there for this morning. But if there are questions, then please feel free to ask. Venerable Sepal. So I'll repeat it because then maybe I said it wrong. So, bodhicitta, when it's conjoining with the affliction, with the various practices, makes them so much more powerful. But in terms of the wisdom realizing emptiness, when it's the mind that is the union of calm, abiding, meditative insight, when that is empowering the wisdom realizing emptiness, the wisdom that realizes emptiness, then it's that mind that is strong enough to cut the afflictions together with their seeds and gain liberation from the afflictions. But what you said was correct. I didn't say it, but that wisdom, when it's conjoined also with the union, calm, abiding, and meditative insight, is conjoined with bodhicitta, then it can also remove the stains, and Buddhahood will be achieved. Okay. And thank you.